Caleb, we made it.
We did it, bro. We
We
did
did
it.
it. Using technology failed, so I have to go to the old backup, and that's what it's all about. Just like you're saying, little Remy there didn't want to take a nap time, so you have to call an audible.
We got to be adaptable in this day and age. I mean, if nothing else from the past 5 years has taught us, like, if you can't adapt to the world, you're gonna have tough times anyway. So, like, just expect that things are gonna throw you a curveball and be ready for that. And you find most things work out okay.
Yeah, typically everything works out. So super happy to have you on and to hear what you got going on because I found you through a mutual friend on Instagram and I saw what you're doing and I was interested to learn more. It seemed like you're doing something pretty cool and it's not anything that anyone learned in school. And I wanted to hear about what you got going on. So like what exactly are you doing? Like is it health space? Is it mindset? Is it a little bit of everything? Like just a quick
Yeah,
intro.
I appreciate just even I'm flattered that you're like, dude seems like a different dude. I'm cool with it. The humorous side of me has told people in the past like I do vague shit, but that's kind of just me being a little flippant. But yeah, it's a lot about mindset and performance coaching. I tend to work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I'll be completely frank, I struggle with a title for myself because the stuff I do touches all aspects of your life. When you realize like you want to solve one problem, it has to actually address all of the things. Um, so typically I meet people in their life when they're burning out, they feel like they've hit a plateau in their life
Hmm.
and they're feeling it in all elements of their life, from their physical body to their relationships being strained, but especially with the entrepreneurs I work with, what I especially would consider purpose-driven entrepreneurs, they feel like they've lost their sense of creativity, they've lost their sense of passion. They're successful, but there's like, why do I feel uh, just because the bank account looks nice, why am I still not happy? I have all the things I thought I ever wanted. Why am I not happy? And I'm working my face off and I don't know how to stop it. So my years of owning gyms, I learned that performance is a lot about like taking things away. It wasn't about adding a lot more things. And that's where it kind of like took me on my own journey with my own burnout cycle and finding more purpose. Yes, it makes you more money, but it's also about making more money, doing the things you love and not destroying the rest of your life. Um, I don't know if that was a good intro or not, but that was my intro for today.
So you
So
started so you owned gyms before you were doing what you're currently doing now.
yeah, yes. Yeah, I
So
had
you're
two
like
gyms.
Alex
Yeah.
Hormozy a little bit.
I, Ironically enough, I was a client of Gym Launch when
No way.
yeah. So I learned that was probably the most formal training in sales I ever had and marketing. Um, but and I learned a lot, and he's a very smart guy, but there's a certain element of like the hustle culture that I don't align with. And that element was something that I didn't ultimately align with.
Hmm.
Though the tactics and the information is great and learning how to do those things. But yeah, I was definitely one of those bros for a long time. I started my career in like the CrossFit space, and I opened my own CrossFit gym with my first business partner, which is like go hard, go home, forging elite fitness, like those kinds of words. And it was just like my entire life was wrapped around trying to, basically improve a score on a board.
Hmm.
And or attract the hot girl with six pack abs. That was my thing. Everything black and white, go hard or go home, just that kind of mentality. And as time went on, I realized like there's maybe a little more to life when I want to have like a deep, meaningful relationship, be married, balance a life with a kid, and start asking yourself some deeper questions around that. But yeah, so inevitably, like I learned a lot from the fitness space, but that applies very much into, we'll call it business, but relationships and everything. Like I think it's about how do you, how do I better say this? Being an entrepreneur is like the modern day rock star. There's all this sex appeal around it, but nobody can really like put their finger on what it is. And I think that sex appeal is like I get to get paid and make money and do whatever I want, do everything with my time and just be myself. I get paid to be myself. But the problem is people don't know who they are. So if you don't know who you are, not only can you build a brand and a service around that, which then ultimately you have to productize and sell whatever that's going to be, like you're going to run into a lot of problems around that. So I think the arrival of all this tech and this modernization and the how easy it is to start your own business, while that's beautiful, I think it's brought rise to the new problem of like, oh, wait, who really am I? And what do I really want? Maybe I didn't realize I was actually just chasing somebody else's dream this entire time, even though I thought I was chasing my own dream, which is that's been in and of itself its own journey for myself to be like, oh, that's the actual one of not the actual, it's one of the many problems going on here. So I digressed a little bit. You brought up the Hermosi thing, and then I took a well, that's my right. So I took a left turn and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, just being able to like the first system attempting to get on this interview failed, and I was just like, okay, we have a backup plan. Let's hop on this, and the backup plan works. So when you start anything, most people don't know that they need to have rules and regulations in place so that if something fails, what is the next step? Because if something fails and there's it's not fixable, it's like you got to be able to be adaptable. So when you were doing your gyms, what was going wrong in the beginning that allowed you to? It seems like you probably exited them at this point.
Yeah, a lot of it. I closed my second gym uh, in the pandemic, but the reality was I was already burnt out way before that. And it took me a long time to admit that to myself. The pandemic kind of became the convenient transition. I struggled a lot around that time with letting go of it. I felt guilty. I was like, oh my God, I have all these people depending on me. And one of my business partners, he's my best friend, was like, dude, you've given everything you have. And they're also adults. Like their life does not depend on this gym to solve all their life's problems. And if that's the case, like there's bigger problems here. So the pandemic was like this kind of it made it easier on my heart to make the transition that was happening already. Summer before that, so 2019, I got married and I had come back from my honeymoon and I was 40 pounds overweight, miserable. By the way, not a good look when you own a wellness facility. So that already wasn't in alignment. I was married to my wife. She's incredible. She's saved me in more ways than I can ever describe. But I felt like such an arm's distance. I felt distant from my relationships. I had put a lot of relationships on the back burner as I was doing the grind of starting my own business. I had a previous business partner in my first gym that had turned into a fallout. Um, I can't, and I was just like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And then more deeply, I didn't feel connected to the work anymore. In that, great, I know how to help people lose some weight, but there's this wall. There's this thing I'm missing here that's deeper that I personally feel more called to. And I had been dabbling with a couple clients here and there, but I was like, it's this other thing. I would call it more like the spiritual element of my work that I feel called to, that right now there's this big roadblock. I have this big rent, I have a big, massive space. Yes, it's beautiful, but it just feels like a 1,000 pound gorilla on my shoulders every single day to first just like, okay, I got to will myself to do this thing that I'm not really passionate about anymore, to pay this entire staff, to pay the whole rent and all the other things before I even pay myself to take it. Just it's like the mill of all the I gotta, and I'm not even happy. But yes, I had all these things that I once was like dreaming about. The big, beautiful gym. I got clients that respect me and will show up and pay me a good value and all those things. And I have a team. I have all this stuff, but I'm just not happy. Fast forward, I don't know how much you listen to the Naked Sunday thing, but like I had started doing this thing called Naked Sunday. As the story goes, my wife heard that Christina Aguilera and her husband at the time, I guess, did this thing, and I was like, yes, newly married dude. My wife apparently wants to spend a day naked together. This is going to work out great for me. Um, Naturally, she backs out on the first day, but I was committed and I ended up really facing myself. And I realized how little I thought of myself at that time. And it took me on this journey to realize I had built that whole thing, the gym, the clientele, like that stuff, ultimately to try to impress other people. I don't know if you listen to everything, but I grew up in a cult too. So like a lot of this was like kind of let me show mom and dad I could go my own path because I left. I can show like you can be successful going your own path and doing your own thing. And this was like the symbol of all of that, only to realize like classic, I had my ladder up against the wrong, I climbed the ladder, but my ladder was on the wrong building or the wrong mountain. This is the other thing that I really care about. So it took me on this journey of really breaking myself down to like, how am I actually living my life? Am I living my life in accordance with my core values? Because that's my identity. That's who I am. And the reality was I wasn't. I had been doing it as like a prove it to everyone else, um, which while it was piggybacked with, yeah, we're taking care of people's health, we're doing a lot of great things, it didn't scratch the full itch, and nor was it even my greatest skill set. It was kind of the fitness element was kind of the Trojan horse to the other stuff. But I was just like, I want to do this other stuff. Like that's the thing I got to do. Um, so long story short on that, I ended up losing the weight, but that was because I started to building a different relationship with myself. And I started to rediscover like what do I find enjoyable? What are the relationships I want to be around? And I started to realign my entire life. And ultimately, I started to realign my business around that. How do I value myself even more so? Like, what does this look like? What's the lifestyle I want to be in? This is what 5, 6 years ago now. How do I want to be present as a father when that inevitable day comes that I hope that I was at that time like blessed to be able to have? How present am I as a dad? What kind of opportunities do I want to provide for my daughter, or my child, whomever? And um, yeah, that was kind of the journey around that. So it's what I guess I'm trying to better describe here is like it became this very holistic approach that most people won't talk about because it's like, oh, you need to make more money, do this thing, here's that system, which yeah, that's great and it works. But if it's not the right thing that aligns for you, you're going 1,000 miles a direction in a direction, but it's the wrong direction because you're gonna have to go back and you're gonna have to solve this anyway because like the way path you needed to go is the other way. So that was kind of what the fitness industry like I got to kind of earn my cut my teeth in entrepreneurship through a vehicle of physical fitness, and I still incorporate that today. But what we're trying to do is find a way to more organize your life in a way that is more honest and reflective of who you truly are. And when you do that, the things on your schedule create space to do things like go work out, but not feel like it's going to be a chore or another job. It's going to allow for the space to have the right amount of time with your family and friends. And it will also allow you to put the right type of work on your calendar to value yourself appropriately, those kinds of things. Some people like to talk about work-life balance. I don't think it's the greatest term because it's like you're thinking that it's a binary thing. It's like, no, there's life and your work is a part of your life. It's within that, not the other way around. So you're trying to create a harmonious relationship within those two things. So I've digressed probably in 9 different tracks right now. So I apologize. I can go off on tangents. I think I answered the question properly, but
No, it's all good. I mean, since doing this podcast, we've done over like 100 episodes, and we're still in the building stages. It takes a while to build anything. Everyone wants the viral clip, but once the viral clip's over, do you really want to be like we were just talking about the Island Boys the other day. You remember the Island Boys? Yeah. Well,
yes.
I think one's in jail now, and I don't know what the other one's doing. But like, I mean, that's like viral versus more just doing the boring work a little bit every day and just like building something over time that's repeatable versus wanting to win the lottery, get a bunch of money, and then not knowing what to do with that money.
Well, the foundation underneath those people and foundation is beyond just like surface level stuff. Like if how do you ever read the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
Nope.
All right. He was a psychologist. I think he's still alive. I'm not sure. He talks about zones of like the zones of genius. And there's these four different levels, but it ultimately also gets around to like happiness. And he equates it to like a meter, a thermostat. You have a certain setting. If you don't know how to recalibrate your setting, you're going to pull yourself back into that. It's like a subconscious way of you're going to nuke yourself no matter how much success you create. It's the classic like rags to riches to rags right away. The lottery winner who 3 years later is right back to the same financial situation. It's because their identity can't accommodate for that. But furthermore, your lifestyle is a reflection of your identity. So who you're around, the types of activities you engage in, the types of experiences that like if it doesn't align with your values and you're not capable of kind of withstanding the weight of success, it's all going to collapse because the foundation is not there. So that the Island Boys thing, or any one of the many stars who have risen and then just like fallen out of whatever, and they're it's they self classic self sabotage stories. Like that's exactly what's going on there. So I really respect and appreciate like, yeah, the boring work, but it's the boring work that you would have done anyway because you're just like, I care about where we're going, and this is just part of the path. You have the foundation underneath it. When the successful moment inevitably happens, the foundation can support that, and that is super important. So I think that was really cool that you were alluding to that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants everything now, especially nowadays, whether you just want to start a business or hopping on social media. And a lot of people will start doing activities on those platforms that could get them results faster without thinking about the long term ramifications of their actions today. So
Think of the OnlyFans thing right now. Like,
I was thinking it. You said it.
right? I'll say it out loud. 5, 10 years from now, when those talent people, if you want to go, like whatever, basically solopreneur porn stars want to transition into a new phase in their life, there's going to be challenges. There's plenty of stories already coming out now. Like, yeah, you used the quick thing, and God bless you if that really makes you happy. But there's plenty of things right now. Like, there's going to be long-term trade-offs, whether people like it or not, that are going to come from the decisions. And some people are going to. There's going to be the few cases that it's fine, but for the vast majority of people, there's going to be like inevitably a reckoning of like, yeah, there was consequences. You wanted to do that. There's going to be a lack of opportunities and other things later on based off of some of the decisions you made nowadays. And that's if they're okay with those trade-offs, cool. If they're not, well, think about that before you go down that path.
Yeah, I mean, those people are happy with what they're getting now and aren't thinking about what is this going to be 10 years from now. I mean, the classic study is professional athletes, and now it's going to be even probably, in my opinion, worse now with like name, image, and likeness. I mean, you give an 18-year-old 250 grand in college. You give an 18-year-old $200 in college. They're gonna have some fun, and they're not thinking about like, hey, maybe I need to save some of this for down the road, and they will find out. Just not today because the money's coming in. I mean, I think like Kobe Bryant said it best. Like once you stop being an athlete, you stop getting those big checks. You have to figure out what to do with your time. And obviously, he had controversy in his life, but he did like some cool things outside of basketball. And a lot of people, when their identity is a sport or an item, and that life comes to an end, they end up very confused and don't know what to do.
I love that you brought that up. I think, how do I say this properly? I think it all comes down to identity, no matter what, right? So as I said before, like your lifestyle is a reflection of your identity. Have you ever heard of the Hermetic principle that's like as above, so below, so within, so without, so the universe, so the soul?
Nope, can't say I have.
Es- Essentially, that saying, that principle is like the external will mirror your internal. And if we can see the world as that, that's important. But when we start to change, right? If you've been basing your entire identity on this external locus control. I am an athlete, an external label, right? I'm an athlete in this, or I'm a dad, or I'm a mom. If my entire identity is wrapped up in the label, labels can change real quick. I retire as an athlete. Whoops, what am I now? How do I build my life around this? What do like, and that's, I mean, that rocks you. And you see the classic midlife crisis. I've got the money now. I've got the stuff, but I'm not happy. Like, what am I now? What's the next thing I'm working towards? What do I care about? And that's typically late 30s, early 40s, sometimes 50s, but especially are you a millennial? I'm a millennial. I'm apparently what I'm known as is
Yeah,
like
I just turned
geriatric.
35 2 days ago.
Love it. So I've been writing about like the millennial midlife crisis, and ultimately I believe like we're also like this
Yeah, like
what I call a transitional generation. We're the bridge between like non-internet and internet. We've lived both lives where there's like less connectivity, and then we transition to that, but we're also the first generation that's more about mental health and quote unquote work-life balance and those types of things. I think we've been having our quote unquote midlife crisis much earlier because we're calling into question these systems and these pathways of how do we like what is success. We've seen plenty of people just work themselves to the bone for whatever 30, 40 years, completely nuke their family and have no relationship to their kids, three divorces, that kind of thing, lonely and miserable, die within a year or two of, retiring because they're like, I don't know what else to do. And they're just left with this personal angst. I think that our generation is seeing all of these things, plus it's en masse because we can see everything on social media. We can hear all the horror stories and we're driven by something different, something more driven around purpose. And that's where, to me, it gets into more elements where I think entrepreneurship ultimately is a highly spiritual pursuit, and we can make it as agnostic or non-denominational or non whatever as possible. It's like it's kind of the conversation around identity and purpose between those two things. Who am I and what am I here to do? And that entrepreneurship is essentially the answering those questions. Who am I? And how do I serve? Like, what do I leave behind? And that's hard. I think we're in that generation right now where we're trying to figure out what's that transition between, yes, make practical money. You have to live in this life. You have to do those things. But also, how do I live fully, not just punch a clock until I die? That's a very different conversation. Um, so that the whole that analogy around athletes retiring and be like, what do I do next? There's so many people that just, I mean, they turn to drugs and alcohol, and you see, especially like all the football players, a lot of them just get massive because they're like, I keep eating and drinking the way I was before, but I could get away with it because I was working out so much. And then they're like, you look at them like, you are a shell of your former self. What happened to you? Because they just didn't know how to reapply the skill sets that they already have into something that serves them in a way that brings them meaning and gives them a reason to take care of themselves in a different way. So, like seventh soapbox of today over.
yeah, I mean, if you don't like who you are when you're by yourself, you can't expect to like yourself when you're around other people. And when you have like a team aspect and you have a big team around you, it's very easy to get picked up because you have other people around you. When you're by yourself and you start a business and you make like $3,000 your first year in business, you're going to start asking yourself a lot of questions. And most people are going to just give up. They're like, oh, I tried. It's over with. It didn't work. I didn't make a bunch of money this year.
Yeah, it's a lonely place. But you said it best. If you don't like yourself while you're alone, you're gonna have a real hard time anyway, because you're gonna just that's where I see a lot, especially if somebody owns a business, you see so many people undercharge, undervalue themselves because it just ultimately they're operating out of desperation, sure. And like, yes, you got to pay the bills. I get that. But the other side of it is they want to feel like they're validated. They don't want to feel alone.
Hmm.
So they struggle with that. Been there, done that. Like, I got to find a way to make this work. Oof, it's scary, especially when you're like, I got big bills to pay. Um, and if if you got a family at home, you have those other things around there. There's different drivers, but you see so many people, and it goes beyond that, right? How many people stay in terrible relationships because they have such a low sense of self-worth, whether it's a terrible marriage or an abusive whatever, a friendship that you don't get what you need out of it. Um, and then not least of which the relationship with yourself. Like if you don't like yourself, you're not going to take care of your body, you're not going to take care of your mind, you're not going to do the things that make you feel good, not because it's some punishment. I need to go beat the snot out of myself at the gym. It's more, well, I'm just taking care of myself today. And wow, I really like nourishing my body with foods that make me feel good. There's that subconscious, I'm just going to destroy myself constantly. And I've said this all the time. It's like you can't hate your way into loving yourself because that's just trying to grin and bear it and like thinking at the end of that road you're going to be like, how can you sustain that? You can't sustain that. But if you love yourself, yeah, you're going to do some uncomfortable things at times, but you see it as serving like this deeper sense of self and purpose. So you hit the nail on the head. If you don't like yourself while you're alone, my God, like there's also nothing worse than feeling alone in a crowd. That's just like, oh my God, I literally don't even know how to connect to these people. I just am here in a sea of humanity, and it's just like I don't belong. That's just as bad sometimes, if not worse.
Mm. I feel like that a lot.
Oh, do tell.
Well, I mean, I don't talk unless I have something to like contribute, and sometimes people are talking about things that I have no idea what they're talking about, so I just like nod my head and ask questions. And some people take that as like, I don't know how people take it, but I'd rather just ask questions and listen than just open up my mouth for the sake of saying something. It's kind of like you're in a circle with people and like telling a story, and then the next person tells a story, and then the next person tells a story. It's just like versus like digging into that one story.
Dude, don't undervalue that. That's
Oh, I'm not
there's
undervaluing it. I'm just saying.
at all. Like the way you said it, I'm like I think you might realize like more people like I don't know you yet. Like we're just getting to know each other right now. This is which is awesome. But like the fact that you reached out to me the way you did, like I'm not even the fact that you're like, I'm just curious and I want to talk to you. I thought that was incredible. I'm like, cool, I'm drawn into this guy. It actually made and I don't know if you felt the same way, but like I was more intrigued about you and like I want to know.
Well, I mean, that
Like,
comes with the practice.
sure.
I mean, you
Yeah.
don't know, like when you first start a podcast, people are like, well, how many episodes do you have? None. And people are like, yeah, I'm not interested. Or I remember I worked with one person and they're like, hey, like I got this new studio. I could interview you. Cause I asked them, I was like, hey, like, what would it take for me to be on your podcast? And they basically said, like, I'm not successful enough in their eyes. And they're like, well, I have this studio, and if you pay $1,500, I'll use the studio to interview you and you can use it. And I was just like, no, thank you. Um, and I found it interesting because there are people who get to certain levels of success, and a lot of those people get to that level of success taking that approach of, you know, they're very careful with their time, but they're always like, if it's not sales driven, then it's not worth their time versus looking at the big picture of you remember the movie Billy Madison with Adam Sandler?
Let's go.
So
Yes.
basically at the end he's like, I'm sure glad I called that guy.
That's one of my favorite parts of that movie. It's
Yeah.
so
So it's
good.
just like you never know, man. You never know. Like you could be sitting in a coffee shop, someone looks homeless and they have like $50 million in the bank. You just never know who is out there. So my philosophy for the podcast is people ask, they're like, oh, are you monetizing? Are you monetizing? I was like, the goal is not to monetize. The goal is to meet cool people and have a chat. That's it. And then hopefully the message gets out there and people like it. That's the only agenda that I have. Because being in a financial space, I learned at the beginning I would reach out to people and they're like, what do you want to sell me? Or they'd always say, I already have an advisor. I'm like, I just want to meet you because you look like a cool person. And I don't know how this world works outside of corporate America where everything is set up for you.
Yeah.
So I came up with the
Yeah.
idea for the podcast to be like, hey, I think people would be more interested if I had a podcast because at least we can help people get their message out there, film their content, post it. So at least there's something in it for the guest rather than just let's go get coffee and let me get to know you, you get to know me, and see what happens.
I gotta say, I really respect your non-transactional approach to relationships. That's not easy, especially the environment it sounds like you're in. But in general, like, how many people is just like it's so transactional? It has to be this as opposed to let's just talk and that's the transaction. And as you said, like that's such a great analogy. I'm sure glad I called that guy.
I'm sure glad I
You
called that
really
guy.
did like it's like people really don't know. And the in my personal experience, and I'm not gonna speak for you, but I'm sure many with yours, like the best relationships I have, it was just out of nowhere. It was like unexpected. We just kind of just talked and showed up for each other in small little ways, and it grew and it grew and it grew. But it wasn't this big, heavy, has to be this way. It was almost like less structure, and it was just like cool. Let's just talk and be humans. And then as the trust build, like naturally opportunities come from that. Like it doesn't have to be so stiff and rigid, which
Ones and
everybody
zeros.
which we're not that. We're not ones and zeros. We're not fucking robots, man. We're human beings. So
Yeah.
we need to start treating each other like human beings. Otherwise, like we all might as well just get officially uploaded into the matrix and just call it a day. Like that could be it. But yeah, I
I have different
unconventional
approaches
is a
for
great.
different aspects. Like I do have people who reach out to the podcast. They're like, "Hey, I want to be a guest," and I say, "Hey, you can be a guest, but I ask for a small amount of money because I donated money to a nonprofit that helps homeless people, and I use that money to donate to that cause. I already made like a lump sum contribution, so I use that money to make that. And people were like, I don't pay the play. And I'm like, okay, well, don't come on the podcast then. $36, Caleb. That's what I asked. $36 for like people reaching out to me to
Send
be
me an
on the
invoice.
podcast.
Send me an invoice. I will pay the
No, you don't have
$36.
to pay it because I invited you. But if people are
Let
reaching
me
out to
change
me,
that. I want to now, especially after that
I'll
story.
share
For
with you
well,
the nonprofit and you can donate directly.
okay, I will do that.
Because
That's
one of the things with me is I'd see like a homeless person, I always feel bad. And I was like, well, how could I like fix that? And I was like, I'll just donate to a nonprofit that I know like gives the money to the people who are actually looking to do better versus out on the street. You don't know. So I mean, I came up with that idea. So it's like different people. If I'm reaching out to you, I want you on the podcast. You're reaching out to me, I'm gonna ask for something in return and see how you respond. Most people, they're like $36. Oh, he's donating it to a nonprofit because part of our company is focused on philanthropy, so not just taking giving back. And if the person doesn't want to do that, then they're not a right fit for the podcast, and that's cool.
Josh,
And
you're a good dude.
oh,
You're
thanks,
a
man.
good dude. Like, I hope more people tell you that because you are a good dude. Like,
Appreciate
I
it.
just
I
like your company. I'm enjoying you as a human being. I really am.
thank you, and I'm glad Remy fell asleep there.
I,
Multitasking, and you're getting an arm workout in at the same time.
bro, my arm is killing me, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it, bro.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all about like figuring it out. Like in the beginning of like any business, if you get someone just to talk to you, like that's exciting, and then eventually you're like, all right, I gotta like charge something. It doesn't even have to be a lot of money, but just charge something. And then, I mean, you mentioned earlier, like finding the right price. I mean, one thing I did was just like, I came up with ranges of prices for people. I said, hey, like, here are the packages, here are the ranges. Which one do you want? I don't care. It's all based off the amount of work I have to do. So that way it's a little bit more inclusive versus just like I hop on a call with someone I met on social media. They seem like they're doing cool things. They're like 17 grand up front. And I'm just like, if I hired someone on salary, I only pay them every 2 weeks. I'm not paying them up front. So how come everyone on social media wants everything up front? Because that's not the way the world works.
Usually monthly payment plans, right? Or biweekly, like you said. Yeah,
I'll pay you every
that
two
is.
weeks, and if I don't like the work, then I stop paying you. Because getting that amount of money back, unfortunately, the way the world works, if anything that's like less than $100,000 in damages, it's not even worth like going into legal or anything just because it's not worth the investment or the time or the energy.
Well, even you're speaking to just kind of trends of our time. We're more about like payment plans and dare I call it like rental economy and then like ride shares and all those kinds of things. Like it's all about can we put on a payment plan and fit it in, which in many ways it's like if you do it correctly and not just like swipe everything on credit cards and just say, I'll make it up later on. It's like it's kind of an interesting way of budgeting out your life if you're very intentional and you're smart about it. But agreed, like to get a lump sum of money back is you're going to jump through some hoops, and that's a challenge. So yeah, and I also think about this. I get love to get your take on it. To me, there's a security in somebody saying like, "Hey, it's going to be this total amount," but like we do it like in a payment plan, and we're just like that's how we do it. It's like you're going to stick around. I'm not worried. Like we're going to build it. The person who's so chill and like whatever, man, usually is the person who's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to pressure you. We're going to have a real relationship here. I'm confident what we're going to bring. I'm not worried about it. Like, especially if you also know who you're bringing into your life. I've used it. I'm at a place in my life, and maybe you're the same way, is that the last thing I ever want to be to anybody is like a debt collector. They're they're just something so nauseating to me. And I remember this one time, I'm for the record, I'm not the guy who stares at the bank account and the books and all that stuff. I have friends who do that I trust inherently to look at those things for me. I'm like, I'm a believer in who, not how. Takes a lot of trust, but once I don't have to think about that stuff, yay. Um, but I remember at the gym, maybe like a year or so before we ended up closing it, this woman just wandered up to me and she's like, "Hey, I have to pay you." I'm like, I had no idea. But everything about that moment, I was like, oh, cool. I have people in my life that I don't have to worry about screwing me over. They're going to go out of their way to do the right thing because guess what? I would do the same thing if I owed somebody else money. I would go up to them and be like, I need to pay you. Like, not only that, like, make me pay you right now because I understand what it feels like to run a business. And then people don't do that. Um, I don't know. I think it's just all about really alignment with people who share your values, who see you and understand you. And like, I respect what you're doing here and how you're doing it. This is just part of the process, and I want to be part of that because I identify with those kinds of values, and I want to uphold that into my thing. So that's just like that's kind of the energy I've noticed with the people who are like, yeah, cool. Like, is it easier for you to pay for it this way? Cool. How do we fit this into your life so you're not freaking out all the time? And it speaks to me of like a comfort and a self like a confidence within that person who's making that offer. Like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, good. I don't need all that money right away. Um, how do we make this work so that you can get the service you need and without breaking the bank? And I don't know, long-winded way of like that's just my opinion.
I mean, if someone wants something that's going to be a smaller investment, it's just less work for me to do. So I'm cool with that.
Right,
The
right,
things that are larger investments are actually harder because it's more work involved. You're having to like get people to give you things and then they don't give you things. Now the project's delayed. Now you're not taking things off your plate. It's just like, hey, I'm still waiting on this document from this person. They haven't sent it to me. I've reached out like three, four times. They paid me. I'm just like, okay. I've had people pay me and just never show up at all. I have no way to
wow.
even like refund them. So I mean,
That's wild.
people are pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, people have like paid me and I'm like never hear from them ever again. I'm just like, where'd this person go? I feel bad, but I mean, there's nothing I could do about it.
right, right, right.
kind of like if I
Yeah,
paid to go to your gym and I just never show up. Like, do you feel bad if you're getting the payment? Maybe, but I
it's
mean,
weird.
it's not your fault that I don't show up.
All right. Yeah. It's a weird paradigm, man. Yeah. Also, one of the many reasons why I didn't want to go into the financial world because you started saying paperwork and documents and all those things. I was like, my brain just started was like pulsing. Like, no, no, no. Yeah. More power to you, man. More power to you.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's good at something, and I mean, if you put systems in place, uh, it's very easy to figure things out. But without those systems in place, and if someone's just like in the beginning of any journey, most people are just very sales driven, and it's always sales. Sales are the answer. Sales will solve all your problems. Sales makes the world go round. Versus like you put systems in place, and then you don't have to work as hard, and you just let things flow. Eventually, it just becomes much easier. But people get addicted to the game because that's all they
Yeah.
know, and it's who they are. They're like, I'm this.
Yeah. And I think you hit on something really powerful there. You find that a lot of like marketers and salespeople, they're also the same people that often struggle. I'm not saying I'm painting a broad stroke, but I'm talking like the flashy online world of certain things where it's all like, check out me and my jet, and like, most of it's just kind of rented stuff. Like there's a lot of that world, especially in like the agency world, and it's just a shell game. I've talked to them and I've worked with a lot of them. Um, you see that they also are the same people who can't maintain a long-term relationship. And you go, retention's the name of the game because a sales cycle is a short, hot, fast, like bump of adrenaline and dopamine and like all the feel good stuff. Like, cool, I made a bunch of money. But how do you sustain that? How do you keep that slow burn over time? How do you maintain a deep, meaningful relationship? Which, as you talked about with this, so astutely with that Billy Madison, it's like, I'm sure glad I called that guy. It's like,
Yeah,
I built a relationship there, and long term, the payout on that was far greater than what some short term big hit is going to be. And the same thing you had said about for like, I'm looking for the big viral thing, but like, could you sustain your success? And it's not sexy to talk about sustainability. That's why I think the fitness world, the health world is such a great place to kind of cut your teeth because of the sale on fitness and long-term health and well-being is literally the hardest sale to mankind. It's like, I'm going to ask you to do some uncomfortable things for a long period of time, and you're going to have to do this for the rest of your life. Oh, okay. When you put it in those terms, like that's not like it's such a hard thing to say. But long term, when you're in your 60s and 70s and 80s, chances are you're going to feel a lot better. You're not going to feel like you're breaking down. You're not going to feel like you're going to be more resilient. And that's hard to tell somebody when it's 20, 30 years later, I'm sure. And like money stuff, it's similar. Like, do you want to retire and not feel like you're struggling to pay your bills at 65 years of age? Well,
yeah.
start saving now. And oh, do you want to leave your family in a place where like they have money when you die so you don't they're not in a rough spot? Well, here's the life insurance policy you need to buy now. Like that, it's those little things where it's just smaller investments over time. Um, it's the compounding effect, like the compounding interest effect. That's it's so hard, it's so unsexy to sell, but it works every single time. And chances are those people are also the ones who have the lucky breaks on the other things and then somehow like climb to stardom in whatever their field is because their foundation is solid.
Yeah, I mean, it
You got me
starts
really
early.
thinking. You
It
got me
starts early.
thinking.
I mean, with my daughter, I like every morning, typically, I do my best to like pull out the yoga mat and like do some stretching. And then she wants
Nice.
to stretch. And so she's stretching and she's not even two yet. She's already like doing that. She like goes to the gym with us and she can like hold her body weight by herself. Like she already like climbs up a rock wall. I was like, well, that's pretty impressive.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know if I could do those things, but I mean, it starts early. I mean, and if you don't have the right parents or role models, and you start late, you got to do it yourself, and no one's going to tell you to do it. Otherwise, I mean, like bodybuilding, like if you look at like Ronnie Coleman back in the day versus now, you're like, was it worth it?
That's a great. You've got some great examples today. Between that and Billy Madison right now, you've got
I'm a ninja. I'm all over the place. You should hear me DJ in the car, man. It can go from Tom Petty to Future real fast. Just
dude, I'm so glad you invited me on this podcast today. This is great. You've made my day.
perfect. I can go home. I can go take a nap now. Day's over.
Let's go. Let's go. Dude, yeah, that's a great, like, is it worth it when you're basically, I mean, sure, there's the glory of like, I've got the medal around my neck, and there's something to be said about that. Like, I can't say that that's not cool, but I don't know. I always think about like not wanting to peak early. Like, I don't want to peak in the classic, don't peak in high school, man. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't the ultimate to be able to peak on your deathbed? It's like, I've reached this, like my highest development as a human. But I think that's such a hard concept for anybody to wrap their head around because we attach so much value to external stuff. Like, I won the trophy, I was the best in this sport, I made the most money, I had all this stuff. But when we think about after we die, like, really ask yourself, like, what was the real impact we left? And it's on your deathbed that you're not, it's only until then, like, that you're really gonna know how many people, what, without, and I would even go so far as to say, like, without actually needing the recognition for how many people you impacted. It's like, but how deeply did you impact the people that you could impact? And I feel like that invisible impact through generations, that's what matters. And what, well, at least that's what matters to me, because that's what drives me. And I would, like, it makes me do the things I would do anyway, because I, once I realized, like, I didn't want, once I didn't care about the validation for being the guy that did the thing and who was the best at whatever. It's like, but no, it's, I'm going through these things because I want to give these things to these other people so that they don't have to go through the things that I have to go through, so that their lives can be better. And just,
Hmm.
but in a way that I can also model that, like, I'm enjoying and loving my life and loving being part of their life. I think it's just such a different approach that people don't think about. It's so externally driven, so much they're looking for so much validation out there, like for somebody random on the internet to say, like, you're good at everything. It's like at a at all these weddings, and you're like, how many of those people do you see 5 years later, if not ever again? And it's like, but you spent 70 grand on a wedding to be highly stressed out, maybe put it all on credit cards and get into debt, and then, like, the high likelihood of divorces for those kind of situations are pretty high. It's like, I see those as almost the same thing. It's like, or, and I'm highly biased because I eloped with my wife, and I eloped on a Wednesday afternoon. So, like, let's all take everything. Anybody who's listening to that, take what I said with a grain of salt, because that's how I approach some things. But like, here I am 6 years later, but 12 years into my relationship with my wife, and I love her more now, and I'm more like happier with her now than I was 6 years ago when we got married, but even then 6 years before that when we first met each other. Like, that's the, like, it's not peaking. It didn't peak when we got married. It's still growing and allowing for space to develop. And I think if people think about that, what are you growing and where are you going towards the end of your life? That's, it solves a lot of problems, and it makes it a lot easier to approach some of these things. I love how you just, like, hold space, by the way. I have to stop and say that because I went on like three different tangents there and I don't know where they came from. So, like, I'm just digging you, man. I really am. I'm
Nice.
still curious what about my stuff, or that was like, I really do want to talk about this guy. It's like, cool, I want to talk to this guy, but was there one thing in particular? I'm very curious about this.
Well, first I saw you were connected to someone that I know who's really cool, and I was like, all right, someone else vetted it. And I looked, I was like, oh, looks interesting. Let me ask and see what happens. I got nothing to lose. That's pretty much it.
Cool.
I don't put a whole lot of thought into it other than like I do a little homework. I see like what they're about and I reach out. And I was like, "Hey, you want to come on?" I get sometimes people who are like, "Can we do like a pre-interview or what questions you're gonna ask?" I was like, "Well, I don't know what questions I'm going to ask because I'm just here to have a chat and I don't have like an agenda or trying to get like viral clips for social media to make sure I stay monetized on YouTube. But what do I know? I could be doing it all wrong, Caleb. I could be doing it all wrong. However, I believe like if you take like I mean that's all Joe Rogan did. Like he started off just having friends and chats, and now he just invites people that he's interested in learning from. So I figured if you take that approach, I mean you may not get paid like a quarter billion of dollars from Spotify. However, people will eventually notice. That's my thought process on it.
Not to mention, like, you enjoy it while you're doing it more, not
Yeah, it's
like the
fun.
pressure. Yeah, it's like, cool, I talked to somebody cool today that I
I met I,
genuinely
I
wanted
met
to
I mean if you meet one cool person a day, I'm sure glad I called that guy.
live.
And I learned
That
that from Dave
alone has
Chappelle. You
made
bring it all the way back. Like you start the joke and then you bring it all the way back at the end.
so good. He, you saw Dreamer, his most recent one?
I can't remember. Maybe.
That's my favorite of his stand-ups. Where you just said that, I was like, that one particularly, I was also a little intoxicated with my friends, and I was kind of like seeing all the meaning of life is right before my daughter was born. And I'm watching, I'm like, whoa, that was so masterful how he tied all those things in, and I didn't see that coming. And like, boom, he's so good at that. He's like, he really is the GOAT if there is one. So yeah. We have a lot of similar interests. This is great. I love it. Chappelle,
Yeah.
Rogan. Yeah, I'm here for it, man. I love that you said the Rogan thing too. Like that's a lot of what I modeled my own podcast on. I was like, what do I like to do? I just like to fucking talk to people. Cool, just talk to them. That's all it has to be. And the second you put all that other pressure on there, I just find, yeah, you can have a couple cool things here and there, but like I feel like the essence of what's really trying to happen there gets thrown out the window and you try to box it in, and if anything, you might actually lose the opportunity for the best elements to come out. Because if you're thinking your goal is really just like the space for people to be real, when people are real, they will say the viral clip. But if it feels like it has to be curated and boxed in and I have to say something really punchy and really clever, it sounds forced and it sounds like you were just trying to put a clip so that somebody could then put your quote on Instagram and be like, boom, who's this cool guy? It's like, great, bro. Awesome. And nobody cares because like it's all part of the same noise of everybody doing that. So I love your approach. Like, yeah, we're gonna talk and we're gonna have the fact that people are so afraid, I think that's heartbreaking to me. The fact that people are so afraid to just sit and talk with somebody else who just is like, I'm gonna chat with you. No agenda, we're gonna talk. That's a little bit disheartening when I think of that. It's like, what are you worried about? Like somebody enjoying your company? Are you afraid to like just be seen for who you are? That to me is sad. Like that really like it hurts my heart to hear that kind of stuff. And I've had a few of those things before, and I've had very similar answers to yours. Like we're just gonna talk, and that's it. And if you need another thing, like my goal is to make you look good. Like it doesn't do me any good if you make you look like an asshole. Like that doesn't help anybody. So
People can do that
that
on their own.
they can do that on their own, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm
You
gonna
don't
try
you don't
to
need my help
steer
for
it.
that. I mean, I'll help you do it faster probably, but I mean, you don't need my help to speed up that process.
Oh God.
So, well, in the
Yeah.
words of Lincoln Park, in the end, it doesn't even matter. So, happy to have you on, Caleb. We'll see everyone next time.